Hello and welcome to a new cottage living build. This time I'm doing a smaller cottage. I wanted to, try and get a few different builds with the items. So I have the bigger 3 bedroom house that I did. Then I did the apartment renovation and now I'm doing a smaller 1 bedroom cottage. I really like it. I managed to do a few things and I did it on this lot, which has the waterfall next to it. It's up the mountain and I really like it. So this time I managed to finally use the thatched roof, which looks amazing. Turns out you can only have it at different, like a specific heights, because otherwise the trim thing at the top doesn't really work. So you'll see that I struggle with it a little bit when I try to bring the roof up or down, but I ended up liking how it turns out. I had this window on the side as well, which the pack comes with 2, and I feel like I used the wrong one. I should have used the other one just because I feel like it clips a little bit at the top with the roof trimming, but I'm still quite happy with it. I did want to use one of them just to give that cottage feel. I feel like this build compared to the other 2 is a bit more fairy tale like, if you want to say. I used some of the darker stone on the outside. Again, just I wanted to make it quite different from the stuff that I've done before and use a few of the different items. And even though I think maybe I used the same stone and maybe I didn't, but I did it on a light one before, so I wanted to use a dark one. Use this more cottagey, like fairy tale like door, if you want to say, which I quite like, with that wreath on it. And some of the windows that have that panel, like wood panel on the side, like so you can open it and close it kind of thing. I did it on a darker wood. I wanted to use some of the bigger windows as well, but I'll change this one in a second, that front one, to do more like a bay sort of window, even though it doesn't really match completely the other stuff. And that's something that I realized while I was building this. A lot of the stuff just doesn't really match, like the different woods don't really match, especially with the furniture, and the wallpapers and flooring and stuff. It doesn't matter. I'm using these darker wood windows here, mostly just the smaller ones, just because I felt like the 3 tile windows and the 2 tile windows just didn't really work. And I finally figured out how to use the pond tool. So I'm building a pond here on the side, just because I feel like the lot is quite big compared to the size of the cottage. So I feel like it makes it blend a lot better into the world. And also I wanted to use a new pond tool. I know it didn't come with the pack, it's a base game update, but I still hadn't used it yet, so I wanted to use it here, and I think it looks quite nice. And like I said, it makes it blend a lot more into the world, even though I think I fence it quite a bit, just like a corner fence sort of situation. But I still think it makes it blend a lot nicer, and it just doesn't feel like you have this huge lot that is kind of empty and your house is just half the lot. I went through the debug catalog as well and found a bunch of stuff that I really wanted to use, like those trees, the plants, even a well I think I found at one point, and I put it towards the back. Those fairy lights on the tree, that looks amazing. I didn't even know that was there, and yeah, every time that I go into debug, I feel like I need to look at it quite closely because I keep missing stuff and then I find it later on. But yeah, I find a few different plants, flowers, things to put around the pond just to make it look like it belongs to that world, And yeah, just a bunch of random stuff. There's the well that I find. I think in the end I scaled it down once just because I felt like that size looked a bit better with my lot, and just adding a bunch of stuff to the pond, all the squares there that then will spawn different fish and insects and stuff to make it look, like a real pond. And then yeah, I wanted to do the landscaping and the outside part of the lot before I went and did the inside and the furniture, just because I feel like I usually do it the other way around. And because I'm using a lot of the same cottage living items, I just felt like doing the outside, the landscape, and the plants and all that first would make the build a bit more different compared to the other ones and a bit more interesting for you to see. And yeah, just adding a few items here, just a few like more decoration pieces on the outside of the build, just to make it look more realistic, if that makes sense, rather than just a block. And I add that roof, that trimming over the door, but then I have to delete it later on just because I put it with the roof objects cheat, whenever I went into the inside of the build and tried to do the furniture, it kept showing and it was annoying me a bit. So even though it looks nice, I deleted it in the end. But I'm doing a lot more of the plants and all that landscaping, which I only, like, honestly, 2 years ago, maybe even a year ago, I didn't use any landscaping. I didn't use any floor, whatever you call this, the different patterns on the floor. I keep forgetting the word right now, but I didn't use any of that, and that's why my builds looked awful back then. So I'm glad I didn't really post any of that back then. And yeah, they just looked like blocks. And since I discovered landscaping and plants and all that stuff, then I'm really happy with most of my builds, and at least to me, they look a lot nicer. So I'm fixing all that on the ground just now, just to make it look like, the things have been lived in, like it belongs there. And it just looks a bit more realistic, and it also gives it a bit more depth, with which I quite like. So I'm adding that bin there in the back, and just a few things. Like I said, I wanted to do a path from the door to the well, but then whatever I did, it just didn't really look right. When you do those like stones that you see there, I feel like because it's just, towards the edge, you can see that it's like a paint tool sort of situation. So I feel like it didn't really work. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I just did that little bit towards the front door, just, I don't know, to add a bit more detail. I think it looks quite nice. And then I did sort of that weird, just like a random fence in the back. It could be like there was an old fence there and only a few pieces are still there. I think it looks nice. And here's what I said, I had to remove that because it kept showing and it was annoying me a bit. But then on the inside, I'm only doing a one bedroom cottage here. I'm using a lot of the wallpapers and stuff that came with the pack. I was trying to find different things to use, but I just used the new ones anyway. But I was struggling. I wanted to do some of the darker shades or swatches for the floor, but they just didn't really match with the wood, like the paneling wood in the wallpaper. So I ended up going with that lighter one, which I think I've used before, but it's just the one that I felt like matched a bit better. And then for the bathroom, I did, you'll see I changed it now, but the wall, I did half the walls, so the exterior walls are the same stone as the outside of the building. And then on the inside ones, I just went with some white tiling, so then it feels like, they've left the exterior walls the same, and that gives it that cottage feel, if you know what I'm saying, hopefully. But on the inside, I just fixed a few of the flowers that were clipping towards the inside of the build. And because it's just a one bedroom, I didn't really have huge room for an office, but I always like adding a desk and a shelf and stuff like that, like bookshelves in my builds. So I put this little nook here towards the entrance, the front of the cottage, and just added that desk over there and some shelves as well. Again, I wanted to use some of the other shelves, but none of the wood was matching, so I ended up using a bit of a more modern bookshelf that I wouldn't necessarily think fits the best, but the color does, so that's why I went for it. And then over here, again, curtains. We know I hate curtains, but I think this one actually from Cottage Living, when you scale it down twice, I think it is, fits quite nicely on one tile window. So I think I ended up using that throughout the whole build, and adding just a wood burner as well here because the fireplaces were just too large. They didn't really fit here. So I just used this one from Eco Lifestyle. I believe that's where it came from. And then I'll do sort of that living area over here. You'll see that I'm searching for that rug that I wanted to use in a different color, but then it didn't really match. And I found some benches that were actually from the pack, so I changed the benches on the outside using the same sofa in the same shade as the office chair, which matches quite nicely. So I changed that color on the rug so it goes along a bit better. And then I decided to mount the TV here just because I feel like that wallpaper is so busy that it's quite difficult to find paintings and things that actually look good with it on. So I just mounted the television, and then that gave me a bit of room to put a bit of clutter on the coffee table. And then I went onto the desk again to add some clutter there as well, just to make it look a bit more lived in. And also that side table that I put there, that round little table, which I put some magazines underneath, and I think that looks really nice. It looks quite realistic, I feel like. So I really like that little detail over there, and just finding a few more items over here, you know, since I'm looking at the clutter items and stuff in the decorations. I just, you know, sometimes pull things out that I want to use later on, and I just leave them around, and then I'll place them wherever I want to. But I think that looks quite nice. And then I just needed to add a few more vertical details, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to find some plants that look nice. I go back later on and find the new plant that comes with the pack to put it over there. But then moving on to the entrance here, just a couple of details, and then I was ready to do the kitchen, which I was using the same counters from the ones that come with the pack, but I feel like I'm just exhausting my options with them. I went with that lighter swatch, but then none of the stuff really matched with it. The cabinets don't really match the color properly. Also, the cabinets are huge. At least in this build, it just looked humongous. So I ended up going with some shelves instead, rather than the cabinets, just because it couldn't really fit. And you'll see that I'm missing a sink. So I do all the clutter, and then I realize that I'm missing a sink. So I have to move everything so I can leave one empty countertop space sort of situation, so the Sims can actually cook, because you need that one free countertop. And then you'll see that I use the sink that comes, like the counter sink, sort of, yeah, like the full counter that's also sink that comes with Cottage Living, but the color on it, I'm not super keen. You'll see that the one that matches the wood on those cabinets is just too yellow for my liking. But you know, adding some clutter here, most of it from content creators, so custom content here. I just think they're great for clutter items. I feel like the stuff we have in the game just isn't that good. I couldn't really find that much stuff that makes sense, so especially for shelves, not a lot fits within the shelves, so I like custom content for that. And I think here's when I realized, yep, I didn't have a sink, so I go and try to find that one. But like I said, the one that matches, just both the inside of the sink is yellow and also the top is yellow. It doesn't look gold. So yeah, not super keen on it, but I wasn't gonna change all the color of the cabinets at this point. I quite liked the shade that I was going for. And then here by the entrance, just adding a little table just to make it, again, a bit more realistic, also to fill that space over there. Otherwise that sort of wall looked really empty. So just adding, you know, like the bowl with the keys and some flowers, like plants and that stuff. And then a little dining table as well, which again, if you ask me, this table and the chairs don't really match. I don't know how I'm supposed to use them to match, and I don't know if that's just me. If you also have that issue, let me know. But I feel like a lot of the swatches just don't really go together, and it's a bit disappointing. But you know, using what we have, just adding a little rug underneath as well to finish it off. And then I think I go into the bedroom at this point. And initially, maybe I finish this wall first. I didn't want to use that painting again. I feel like I've used it in every single build for the past month or so. Going into the bedroom, I wanted to use a different bed just so it looked different. But again, I go with the original Cottage Living bed in the green swatch, I think, with the white metal. And then I use a few different items that are not necessarily Cottage Living. They're just from either a base game or other packs. But I do use the vanity that comes with Cottage Living. I feel like that looks quite nice, and it fits quite well with the cottage feel, if you want to say. So yeah, I do go with that and just add a few details here and there, some plants just to fill the room a bit more. Find a few paintings to use throughout as well that look quite good, and scaled up that sunflower painting just to fill that wall a bit more. But I do feel like because the wallpapers are so busy, I don't feel like I need that many paintings. And then just adding a couple of rugs on the side. I was gonna go with the Snowy Escape ones, but they didn't really fit the vibe that much, so I go with those. I think they're base game, just on the sides. And then I wanted to build sort of a shoe rack, but then I realized that there's an actual shoe rug in the game. So I do go and delete those shoes in a second. And I do find a random picnic basket that I don't think I had seen until now, which is from Outdoor Retreat, I feel like. I don't think I've used that ever, but I found it and it looked quite nice over there just in the corner. And then just a very simple bathroom. I don't think I use any of the Cottage Living stuff for the bathroom. I don't think I needed to. I think, we've got other stuff in the game if you have more packs that fit quite nice within the theme. So I use some of the other stuff to finish it off, and then you'll see that I haven't used the curtains yet for the bedroom and the bathroom, so I go and put those now, just the same ones from Cottage Living in the different swatches, and that's pretty much it. I really hope you guys liked it. I'm just adding a few more details throughout, but that's pretty much it. If you guys like the build, let me know. If you have any suggestions or requests of builds that you like to see, then let me know. But otherwise, please subscribe to my channel. That'll really help me, and like the video, and I will see you next with either another build or a let's play.